This is a Q&A session with me, Jesse Thomas, professional triathlete, hosted by Accenture. We're going to focus mostly on Oceanside 70.3 and some other triathlon-related stuff. If you want to submit questions to me while we're chatting, this is my very high-tech way of doing this. You can, I hope that that's not backwards, anyways, Jesse at Leap Day Sports, Twitter at Jesse M. Thomas. It looks backwards on my screen. Hopefully it's not on yours. All right, I got one email coming in already. Let me check this real quick. And all right. Okay, good. So it looks like somebody is seeing some of it from Justin. Hopefully that's working out for him. Justin, if you're watching, send me an email and make sure that tell me that it's working, if possible. If not, all this stuff is going to be recorded, and you will be able to watch it on YouTube and check it out later. So not a big deal if you miss it or if you can't ask questions right now. Hopefully there'll be some content that you guys can use later. So, who am I? Why should you care about this? I am a professional triathlete, have been for about 5 years. I am a business owner. As you can see, grossly marketed logos behind me. I'm co-own Picky Bars with my wife, Lauren Fleshman. And I'm also a writer for Triathlete Magazine. I have a monthly column called the Triathlete that is distributed in all triathlete magazines and online, and I get a bunch of great questions and feedback and write articles about basically the balancing of sport, work, and family. And on that end, I'm also a dad and a husband. So I got a 20-month-old son named Jude, who's the coolest little burrito ever. And I've got an amazing wife who's just incredibly talented and beautiful and all the things that you want in a wife. So she's awesome. Lauren Fleshman, I'll talk a little bit more about her. What are we going to talk about? Like I said, anything that you want. So I've got a number of questions, mostly hoping that can help you guys race fast at Oceanside and pursue your triathlon goals. Why should you care about me talking about Oceanside? That is because I have raced Oceanside twice now, and the most recent time, which was 2 years ago, I lost in the most epic of fashions to Andy Potts in the last 400 or 600 meters or so. So I've been there. I've swam, bike, and ran that course very hard a couple of times, and had some, actually some great success, but also some amazing failures there as well. So hopefully I can give you guys some tips on how to avoid those failures and have some successes. Okay, a little bit about me, about Jesse. So I was a high school runner, grew up here in Bend, Oregon, which is where I am right now at Picky Bars World Headquarters in Bend. I went to Stanford on a track and field and cross-country scholarship where I met my future wife, Lauren Fleshman, who is a much more accomplished track and field and athlete in general than I am. We eventually broke up towards the end of college. I broke my foot. I quit running. It was a very dark time in my life. Lauren went on to be a professional runner and couple-time U.S. champion in the 5K. I started a company. I was a mechanical engineering major in bachelor's and master's at Stanford. I got in, did my first kind of entrepreneurial activity, starting a tech company with 4 of my buddies in San Francisco. Rode that wave, the kind of Silicon Valley startup wave, for about 4 years before reconnecting with Lauren, finally convincing her to date me again. And we got engaged. I moved to Eugene, where I did an MBA because I wasn't really sure what I was going to do in Eugene. So I went to University of Oregon, did an MBA there. And then it was after finishing my MBA, when I was about 29, almost 30 years old, that I decided to try to become a professional triathlete. So it was kind of a, random time, as many of you guys can remember, late 2009, early 2010, the economy was tanking. So I decided, well, if I'm not going to make any money, might as well not make any money doing something that I really like swimming, biking, and running. So that's what I decided to do. Consequently, around that time, Lauren started making energy bars for me because my stomach was getting messed up, starting to eat 5,000–6,000 calories a day to keep up my training load. We started Picky Bars really as kind of a small project during that time. And then over the next year, I started racing professionally. I had my big breakthrough win at Wildflower in 2011 as kind of an unknown pro. As the story goes, on a borrowed bike in a hand-me-down kit and in my cheap drugstore aviators. So I have since kind of built a career on racing half Ironman, and am kind of a half Ironman specialist. I was 12th in the world last year, 2nd American at the half Ironman World Championships. I've won Wildflower 4 times in a row, which is a record. And I am well supported by some great sponsors, including Accenture, Pearl Izumi, Roca, Jaybird, Diamond Bikes, and Picky Bars. And so that's kind of my my background. We still, as you can tell, my wife and I still run Picky Bars, which has grown. We have about 9 employees right now. And so I basically spend my time balancing a full training load to compete at a world-class level, managing my office and our employees as best I can, and also trying to be a dad and a good husband as much as I can. So I guess what's unique about me in professional triathlon circles versus a lot of the guys that I race against is I came to the sport very late in life, 29, almost 30 years old. And I worked for a long time before that in a 100% professional environment. I was definitely not an athlete for a long time. Did a lot of networking in both my startup life and at business school, which is, I guess, code for drinking beer with people and talking about business. So kind of come at it from a little bit different angle. And I think because of that have, a little bit better sense of the typical age grouper balance in the sport between the, work, family, and pursuing your athletic goals. So that's kind of my quick background. So that's the context through which I give you guys all these tips and advice and everything else. So I've got what I'm going to do real quick here to kind of break it up to the next section is I do have some questions that have been submitted ahead of time, and I'm going to wait to answer those because those are a little bit more specific. And so what I'm going to do is talk first just some general thoughts that I put together on Oceanside 70.3 for those of you Accenture employees and VIPs that are racing there in 4 weeks, as I will be. So we'll kind of start here. I'll just kind of start through swim, bike, run and tell you a couple things that I have written down about the course. So Oceanside 70.3 swim. I have headline here: cold but not as scary as you think. So Oceanside 70.3, it's in general actually one of my favorite races of all time. It's one of the few real world-class half Ironmans that we have on the West Coast. It kind of kicks off the North American season. It usually has a spectacular field, and it's a great environment and a really cool course, a tough course, but fair and fast in sections. But I like the challenge of it, the hills and the ocean swim and the great run that kind of loops through, and you get some chances to see people and see where you are in the race. So anyway, it's a great race. I'm really excited for you guys that are racing it. If you haven't raced it before, I think you'll really enjoy it. It's clearly one of my favorites. And back to the swim. So it's cold, but not as scary as you think. I like this swim a lot. It is cold. It's colder than most of the other swims on the circuit that I've done. But it's a wetsuit swim, clearly, so you have an advantage there for those of you that don't have a strong swimming background, which is most age grouper triathletes and a lot of pros, myself included. So be prepared mentally for the cold, but don't overthink it. It's not like an Alcatraz type swim. It's not that cold. It's certainly not that choppy. It's actually very smooth for the majority of the swim. But it will be cold, and it'll be a little bit of a shock when you first get in. So try to get, just like you would for any race, get warmed up, run for 10 to 15 minutes before you put on your wetsuit. And then while you have your wetsuit on, stretch and kind of stay bouncing around while you're getting ready to get into the water. And then if you guys have a minute or two, try to get a few strokes in the water before the gun goes off. My general tips for swimming, the beginning of the swim, relax, relax, relax. The 3 keys to the beginning of your half Ironman swim are just to relax. I think everybody gets in there, they get excited, the gun goes off, it's cold, it's a little bit frantic with a lot of people around, and everyone goes out way too hard. And particularly in the age group fields where it doesn't matter, it's not as important to be in a swim pack as it is in the pro field. You really need to concentrate on swimming your own race for that first 5 or 10 minutes in particular, to not spike your heart rate and then all of a sudden have to have this big kind of crashing, like, lactic fill of your body, a third of the way into the swim. So really relax. The water is really smooth. It's a really nice, like, harbored swim all the way out until you probably get to about 40–50% through the swim. You start to get a little bit more exposed into the ocean, at which point you'll make kind of the couple turnaround buoys to your left. It'll be a little wavy in that section, not crazy waves or swells or anything like that, but a little bit wavy. So just make sure that you're continuing to sight every 4 to 8 strokes, every 2 strokes if you really can't swim in a straight line, and just make sure that you're sighting to make sure you don't kind of like get tossed around to a different angle, and before you know it, you're swimming backwards or the wrong way or whatever else. You can really relax and build into this swim. It's a little bit different for me because I really do have to go hard to try to stay with a group at the beginning. But after I do that, I really settle and I try to chill all the way around all the way around the buoys, like kind of out in the ocean, through 50 to 70% of the way through the swim course. As you're coming back in, it gets smooth again. You kind of come into the harbor, and you can actually, one little tip of advice is to stay right. And all the buoys are on your left, and you have to stay right of the buoys, but you don't have to stay right next to the buoys. The finish is actually a little bit dogleg right, so you can kind of hug the edge there of the harbor line, and it's technically probably a little bit shorter. It's the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So hug those tangents as much as you can, and come on in and get ready to ride. So the bike course, we'll start out on the bike here. So, okay, a couple tips on the bike stuff. Coming out of the swim, you'll be warmed up, but you might be a little bit cold still, particularly right when you get on the bike and start out. As the general advice I give to anybody in transition is just to relax. I mean, your transition times are not what make or break your race, unless you lose by 8 seconds to Andy Potts. If you do that, maybe you should rush your transitions just a little bit more. But no, for most of you guys, just relax, get the stuff on that you need to get on. I have written here, the cold in general isn't, to be honest, hasn't been a concern for me. But I ride and train in Oregon. I'm a bigger guy too. I'm 175, 180 pounds, which is a bigger guy for some of our pros out here. So I actually haven't gotten too cold. It has been, cold, but not too cold. But some people, it will be too cold to just wear your tri kit and your normal stuff. So if you're one of those people, I would suggest some booties. You can do anything from like Pearl Zumi, for instance, makes a really nice little toe cover that will provide you with some shielding on the front of your foot. That are super easy to have on. You can just have them on your bike mounted already if that's the way that you transition, or just have them on your shoes and put them on without having to undo your shoe, or put them on after you put your shoe on. So I would check out something like that for your feet. Some people will throw on a vest, which is a totally valid idea if you tend to get a little bit colder, or some arm warmers in transition, and or some gloves. For me, if anything, it would be gloves. I might throw on some thin gloves for the bike ride, but it's just up to you. So if I were you, I'd kind of test it. It's typically like mid 50s or low 50s, kind of when you're starting that bike ride. So you guys should know, where you're at for that type of stuff, and how cold it's going to be for you. But for me, I get riding hard enough that it's just it's not too big of a problem. But if you are a person that gets cold, sorry, I'll move on. But if you are a person that gets cold, it's worth that extra 30 to 45 seconds to put that stuff on than going out there and spend hours on the bike freezing your butt off. So that's it. So a little bit on the bike course. I've got it's mostly flat on the way out for about the first half of the course. There are some like little rollers, little punchers, but nothing I would call a significant climb for the first half. I think what I try to concentrate on is just similar to the swim, just kind of staying relaxed during that first half of the bike course, carrying my speed through the corners when I can while being safe, and not over accelerating out of the corners where I'm using a whole bunch of energy because I want to build my speed back up again. Just trying to stay super smooth, relaxed, and mentally preparing myself for the second half of the bike course, because really the second half of the bike course is where all the action happens on this bike course. So at about mile 28, you'll hit a string of 3 main climbs on the back side of the course. So the front side of the course, you kind of go into the base, and like I said, you're kind of rolling flat through a little bit windy stuff, a couple turns here and there, and then as you hit into the back side of the course, you're more on like a single road that is going up and down. So you'll have your first like major climb at around 28 miles. I can't remember the exact mile, but it's somewhere in that range. And I think it's the steepest climb of the 3. And so it'll punch way up. You'll definitely be in your easiest gear for almost all of you. You'll be out of the saddle probably for a big part of it. And that can be a point where you can, to a certain extent, make or break yourself. I think it's very important to ride the hills hard, but it's also important to not blow yourself up. So, I kind of walk that line. For me, if I like ride 320 watts for the half Ironman bike course, I probably climb at 360 to 380 watts. So roughly 20-ish% above my my average power output on those hills. Maybe 30% if I'm really cranking and I need to like stay with a group of guys or something like that. But I wouldn't go much past that, because then you tend to get yourself into a red zone that's hard to recover from, and you're maybe doing more damage than you are good. So what I would do, so take that stuff, feel okay pushing into it, but don't overdo it. And a couple main points on as you're hitting hilly course stuff would be carry your speed up and over the hill, down the beginning of the hill. So the way that I look at it is you want to be putting extra power into the bike all the way until you've regained your kind of average or faster than average speed, right? So if I'm averaging 25 miles an hour and I'm going up a climb, I continue to push that higher 360, 380 watts up over the edge of the hill as I'm creeping up my speed to 18, 19, 20, 21. Even as I'm starting to crest, starting to go down the hill, all the way up to 25, 26 miles an hour, then you kind of start to back off. If you do that, you're riding the course much more efficiently. You're continuing to put power into the bike when you have the least amount of it going to waste at wind resistance. So those are some things you want to think about on hilly, tough bike courses. Over that next little stretch, you have 3 main climbs. So like I said, the first one is super steep. The second one is the longest one. It's more gradual, so kind of settle into a pace that is sustainable for 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what type of climber you are and what type of speed you're going to be at. And hit that thing well, and do the same things I said. Carry your speed over the top and do it. The last one is pretty similar to the first one. Same thing, carry speed up and over the top of it, stay relaxed. The other thing to think about on the bike, and I'm almost done with the bike, is after you finish, you come down, you get a nice little downhill break after the third climb to kind of recuperate a little bit. But then remember that you still have about 10 to 12 miles of pretty flat, it's technically maybe a false flat downhill. But it can sometimes have a little bit of a headwind there. And I just remember it being a very tough part of the course, I think, because you work hard through the hills. So save some energy, save some room for that last 10 miles. A lot can happen in that last 10 miles, and you don't want to be completely spent when you hit it. So that's it. The run, coming into the run, it'll be exciting. There's lots of people around. Relax through transition, get yourself ready, and then head out there. The run is pretty straightforward. You've got a couple different out and backs, some up and down on some steep walkways on the pier, but it's nothing crazy. There's no crazy hills. It's mostly flat, just a couple little steep spots. On the steep spots, just stay relaxed, concentrate on your arms and staying forward as you go up and down the hills. Let your stride open up down the hills and carry as much momentum as you can. On the other stuff, there isn't a ton of strategy to it other than pacing yourself appropriately. I always try to get to 8 or 9 miles still feeling like I'm a little underpaced, because that last 3 or 4 miles can be, sneaks up on you. I think the one thing that I have made a mistake on this course twice, and which I think part of what cost me the race in 2013, was you go out and you kind of do the main loop out and back on, I can't remember the name of the main road, but then you come back in, and it's basically a 2-loop course. You come back into the crowd area next to transition, and you're filled with energy because there's lots of excitement, lots of crowd. You can hear the speakers, the music, the announcer, everything is going. And I think use that energy, harness that energy, but don't get ahead of yourself. You still have a long ways to go, as I figured out a couple years ago. I think during that time I put in a couple really hard miles, dropped my pace per mile by about 10 to 15 seconds, and made a big move, kind of thinking over feeling that energy, I think, than I should have been. So and then ended up paying for it pretty bad at about mile 12. And so so just stay relaxed. And then the last thing I'll say about the course is on the finish is you can see the finish line for a remarkably long ways. And so, stay on your Garmin, stay on your splits, and just think about how much time you have left running and how much distance you have to kind of pace yourself for that last final sprint finish. Don't go too soon, because you may get caught and passed in the last half mile. That's pretty much it. Overall tips. Just some general overall tips that I have for anybody racing. Number one is just pace. Go easier than you think that you should. That's the simplest way to it. I've almost never heard anybody say after a race that they should have gone harder at the beginning. it's always they are going too fast and then bail a little bit, bonk or whatever. So don't do that. Temperature, I actually pretty much already covered this. Not too much an issue for me, but if you do get cold for the bike, have some stuff available, vest, booties, and or gloves. Nutrition, so it'll feel cooler generally at Oceanside, depending on what the weather's like, but that isn't an excuse not to drink and eat following your same kind of nutrition plan. So continue to, particularly the drinking. I think it's really easy to think that you're not sweating as much, but you probably are sweating, if not, 90%, at least 70, 80% of what you would normally. So it doesn't mean that you don't have to drink. So stay on that stuff as best you can, even if it doesn't feel like you have to. Stay positive. Use positive mantras like "You're killing it, man," and "You're gonna do great," and "You're really good." I don't know, whatever it takes to keep yourself positive and stay motivated throughout the race. There are lots of ups and downs in half Ironman and Ironman racing. So it's okay to have a big section of the race where you feel really crappy and you are maybe not going to get through it, and you just give yourself some positive reinforcement. Just force it out of your mouth. Say it out loud. I think it actually helps. In the lead up to the race, just get plenty of rest, eat normally, don't do anything crazy or different, and don't overthink it. It's normal to be nervous and get worried and all that type of stuff. So don't let the process of getting nervous or being worried or thinking about the race make the experience worse than it needs to be. Just embrace all that as positive energy and go out and enjoy yourself. So let's see. So that is that's it on my general stuff. So looks like I do have some viewers here, which is good. So I'm going to answer a few questions and that I had submitted ahead of time. And if anybody else has questions while we're sitting here, this is how you can email or tweet me questions, Jesse@LeapDaySports. I hope it looks backwards on my screen. I'm not sure if it is on your guys's, but go ahead and check that out. Email me if you want to ask me a question, but I'll answer a few of these questions and then we'll be done. And I will also have notes on all of this stuff that that I just made in prep for doing this webinar that I will send through Accenture to anybody that is interested in having the notes. And you can also watch this video afterwards to kind of go through it again if you want in the lead up to the race. It'll be available on YouTube, and we'll send out all of those links and those notes and everything else for you guys as well. So that's it. Okay, to the questions. All right, hairy legs. So this is what is your advice about to shave or not to shave, and does it really make a difference? So yes, you should shave. It does make a difference, particularly your legs and your arms. I wrote an article about this about a year ago where I had I'd randomly gone into, my sponsor at the time was Specialized. I had gone in to do some wind tunnel testing there, and my legs weren't shaved because I don't normally shave my legs outside of racing, and wanted to get some pictures for sponsors and decided that no sponsor was going to want pictures of me with my massively hairy trunks. So I decided that we should maybe test shaving my legs and see if it made a difference in the actual wind tunnel. And much to my surprise, we set it up as a joke. We played like 80s music in the background and got some pictures of me shaving my legs. It was ridiculous. And much to my surprise and the engineers at Specialized was that it actually made a massive difference. I am particularly hairy, as you can probably tell by looking at me at this webinar. But I saved, I think it was 15 watts just by shaving my legs from full hairiness to razored down. So any of you guys out there that have hairy legs, shave your legs. It can actually make a big difference. I don't think everybody's going to save 15 watts. Because not everybody's as hairy as I am, but you might save 6, 8, 10 watts. So check it out. Definitely do that. They did find that shaving your face doesn't really matter that much. So if you're rocking the beard, which seems to be, looking at the Oscars, it seems to be very in fashion right now, don't worry about your beard. If you're like me and you got wings hanging out of your helmet, you might want to get a haircut. But the legs is the most important thing, so do that. Question number 2. Will I ever feel my balls again? How that was actually beeped out balls, but I'm gonna say that it's okay to say that on this webinar. How cold is the ocean during the swim? Yeah. So and anything that you do to prep yourself when you first enter the water, anything after to get feeling back in your hands or other parts of your body. So that's a good follow-up question to some of the stuff that I talked about before. I think it's massively important, and one of the things that very few age groupers do is warm up properly for the swim. Everybody thinks, oh man, it's a half Ironman, it's going to be a long day out there, I can just warm up while I'm swimming. But particularly getting into cold water like that, you want to be warm. You want your, as my coach says, your engine to be on. And so that means 10 to 15 minutes of running is usually the easiest thing to do. It warms you up the fastest. You've already got your bike in transition. You don't really want to mess with it. So do 10 to 15 minutes of running. Just jog around the pier path there. And, you could even do it in your wetsuit. If you probably have to take it off again to go to the bathroom before you get in there if you're like me anyway. But do 10 to 15 minutes of running, just nice, easy jog. Get yourself ready, turn the engine on. And then if you do have time, for the age groupers, you typically don't have that much time, but if you do have time, swim for 1 to 4 minutes beforehand and then just stay relaxed. And then don't go out too hard. I think that's the other thing that makes the cold worse on people, is they go out too hard and they just shatter themselves with lactic acid. So that's what I would do for the swim. Anything afterwards, me personally, I honestly don't do anything. When I get out of the water, it's like the race is on 150% for me, because I'm always behind and I'm trying to catch people. So I literally get on my bike as fast as I can and I just ride as fast as I can. And what I do to warm up is ride as hard as I can for the first 45 minutes of the race, trying to catch the group. If you're not me and you don't have to do that to be competitive, then I think that putting on a vests are really easy to put on in transition, having some gloves ready. I personally wouldn't mess with arm warmers just because I think they're harder to put on, and I don't think that they give you as much benefit as a vest would, which will keep your core a little bit warmer. And maybe just put on some gloves, because I don't think gloves are super hard to put on either. And then, like I said, I think that those booties, having some booties already on your shoes, just the toe covers. And like I said, Pearl makes some great toe covers for stuff like that. Having those just on your shoes ready to go, I think is the way to do it. So that's that. I just got an email question. So let me pull this one up and we'll see. Okay. Do you typically adjust your calories per hour type as well as hydration for colder races? That's a good question. I don't adjust my calories. Excuse me. You're basically, regardless of how hot it is, you're basically burning, from what I understand. I'm not a nutritionist, but I've spoken with lots of nutritionists, and this has been a big focus of my career. You basically burn the same number of calories more or less regardless. It's not exactly the same, but it's not an appreciable difference to really like reduce your caloric intake. So I keep my calories basically the same, which for me is about 250, 300 an hour, and a little bit more on the bike because I try to kind of pre-fuel a little bit for the run, and then a little bit less on the run because it's just harder to do that type of stuff. For hydration, I might back it off a little bit, but to be honest, for me personally, I won't, because it's almost impossible for me to hydrate enough during a race, particularly during a hot race. that even what I'm aiming for, if I can, even if it's colder and I actually do it, I might actually just hydrate myself enough as opposed to underhydrate myself as I would in like a hot race. So for me personally, I can't overdrink. I'm a bigger guy. I sweat a lot. So I pretty much am going to be aiming for me. I'm doing a 24-ounce bottle every half hour, and I will continue to try to do that at Oceanside, even if it's a little bit colder. So that's what I would do. For some of you guys that aren't as hydration dependent, maybe aren't as big, maybe aren't as affected by the heat, you know, you might want to cut it back a little bit, but I wouldn't cut it back any more than like 10 to 20% at the most, because I think most people still underhydrate in their races. So if anything, you should just use the cooler weather as the time when you can actually hydrate enough going into the run. So that's what I would do. Let me see, got another couple questions here. I'll try to cruise through these a little bit faster. How much time do you spend in the weight room per week? Is it a focus for you? That's an interesting question. I don't get that very often. And yes, it is a focus for me. Actually, it's one of my main athletic focuses of 2015 is to be more consistent with my weight room stuff. So, and basically my strength program. So yeah, all of 2015, the 2015 season, which I started, you know, basically in November, December, I've been in the weight room 2 to 3 60 to 75-minute sessions, 45 to 75-minute sessions a week, every week. So that's roughly 2 to 3 hours a week in the weight room. And probably half of that is more core body weight, stability related, mobility related exercises that aren't necessarily like heavy weightlifting. But then half of that is actual heavy weightlifting, squats or deadlifts or you know, rows or whatever type of stuff my strength guy has me doing. I do anywhere from typically 3 sets of 5 to 8 reps, pretty freaking hard. And I think that stuff is totally underutilized in triathlon. I think it makes a massive difference in injury prevention and in overall strength, particularly in the later stages of the bike and the run. So I would encourage you guys to do that. Let's see. Let me. All right. This is a funny third question. If you are not racing Kona this year, will you shoot to improve your beer mile time? Of course, it will be. It will be a massive focus. I mean, really, for me this year, it goes 70.3 World Championships, my first Ironman, Kona beer mile. I mean, they're all pretty much on like the same level of focus for me. My coach and I have a really extensive plan of how we're going to nail it next year, and the training. A lot of the strength training actually has to do with increasing my beer mile time. No, I will try. I mean, hopefully do the beer mile again. I had fun doing it. I'd never done it before, and it was a fun underground event with some of my friends in the sport. And I will have to do more beer drinking because I definitely didn't lose it on the run. I lost it big time on the beer drinking last year. It was pretty pathetic. So we'll see. I'll do that one. Hopefully, again, it was fun. Thanks for the questions. Let's see. I got 2 more questions here that were submitted ahead of time. How do you maintain the power levels in hilly sections of the course? Any tips on dealing with that crazy ass downhill section? Yeah, so I kind of answered this a little bit going through the course, but I think just to reiterate, because I think it's really important, the most efficient, mechanically, aerodynamically efficient way as an engineer to ride a bike course is to increase power with decreased speed. Because basically, as your speed decreases, less of your power is going to wasted energy in the form of lost speed in wind friction. So what I basically do is scale basically scale the amount of power that I put into the bike by the inverse of how fast I'm going. So the slower I'm going, the more power I'm willing to put into the bike, because I'm getting more benefit out of that increased power than if I'm going very, very fast on a downhill. A lot of times I don't even pedal, because it's better for me just to recover than putting 320 watts into the bike to get an extra quarter mile an hour if I'm going downhill at 35 miles an hour. So yeah, some of that changes a little bit for me with the dynamics of the race. If I have to stay with a group and stuff like that, I might have to break from those plans. But generally, that's how you should ride the course. You should be pushing it while your speed is low, and chilling out while your speed is very high, and just holding that average while your speed is average. So that's what I would do, and that's particularly important on hilly courses, because you have lots of sections where speed is changing a lot, during the course. So that's what I would do. Any tips on dealing with the crazy ass downhill section? Yeah, don't go too fast. It's not worth it. It's a half Ironman. It's one of many races. It's, as far as I know from anybody that's watching this, it's the only person whose job it is to race is mine. And you guys, I'm sure, have bigger fish to fry in your own personal and professional lives. So it's like a 20-second downhill. So just chill out, enjoy it. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt anybody else, and get through it. And it's not going to make or break any difference in the course at all. So do that, or in your time at all. So do that. All right, last question I have here is, what are the ways you get through dark zones / spots during a race? Any mantras that you say? Yeah, I definitely, as I alluded to in kind of my overall thing, my overall wrap up, I definitely use mantras, which are super corny. If any of you guys have seen Saturday Night Live back in the day, there was this guy called Stuart Smalley, who said, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. And he would say it in front of a mirror to begin and end each show. That's basically what I do. I don't necessarily stand in front of a mirror, particularly not when I'm on the race course, but I will say positive stuff particularly while I'm feeling crappy out there, and I'll say it out loud a lot of times to myself, because it makes it more real. So I say anything from like, you can do this, you're doing great. I use cuss words fairly often because I'm really psyched, but cuss words in like a very positive way, and to kind of keep myself fired up. I also try to I think kind of a weird mental technique that I use is try to absorb and feel all of the pain, as opposed to block it out, and then make the conscious realization that it's okay and that I'm not going to die. So if I'm really hurting on the bike, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to try to block this out. I'm going to try to make myself feel all of it, and feel all of that pain, just soak it all in, let it all in. And then make the conscious realization that, hey, I just let it all in, and I'm still here riding my bike. It's okay. I'm going to get through this race. That's one of the other like kind of mental techniques that's kind of different that I use that seems to work out well. That's pretty much it. That's what I would recommend. Staying relaxed, staying super positive. It's totally normal to go through. Every single race, whether I've had a good race or a bad race, there has been big sections in the race, 5, 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour even, where I felt like the race was going to complete garbage. And most of the time, the race turns out to be great. And so it's just a matter of kind of like staying through it, letting yourself ride that emotional and physical roller coaster. The race is long enough that there's lots of time to make up ground and to gain positive momentum as if you let yourself do so. So that's what I would do. I think that's it for all the questions that I have. let's see, unless anybody else has any questions, which I haven't gotten any. If you have any, real quick, this is it. But I think we're gonna wrap it up pretty soon. These are my email addresses, and you can email me a question, follow up later too, and I can email you back. Jesse M. Thomas and Jesse at leapdaysports.com. Because I'm at Picky Bars and I'm the CEO and I've got my marketing manager outside of our conference room, making sure that I do this. We did want to offer a special Accenture discount to any Accenture employees who want to fuel up with some great all-natural 4-to-1 carb to protein ratio, gluten and dairy-free energy bars right here from Bend, Oregon, and the special Accenture discount is right here. It's Accenture 25. It's probably backwards on your guys' screen, but it says Accenture 25. So you can enter that on our website, pickybars.com, and check it out. And they actually are, it is great fuel. I use it for training, for the vast majority of my training and racing purposes, as well as just a healthy snack. And it's a fun company, so we appreciate you guys' support if you want to check us out. Oh, it looks like I got another question. Oh, on Q. This might have been a plug, so this might have been a help me plug. Do you use power bars or Cliff bars or perhaps any other type of nutritional bar? Yes, clearly I don't use power bars or Cliff bars. But to give Cliff some props, I do use Cliff blocks sometimes while I'm racing, particularly on the run, because sometimes it's hard just to get like a real food source down the pipes while you're running. So I'll use some caffeinated Cliff blocks. So props to those guys, and I do think Cliff Bar is a great company. But no, I clearly use Picky Bars for the majority of my nutritional needs, both on a day-to-day basis and for my racing and training. So check us out. Like I said, Accenture 25, and I'll send all this stuff out to you guys with the links that came out for the webinar and everything else. I'll send just my notes from the meeting, and feel free to follow up with any other questions that you have via email or whatever else. And I think that's basically it. That's all that I have. So it doesn't look like I have any other questions coming in. So let me just double check this real quick to make sure that we're all right. And yeah, I think we're good to go. So thanks everybody for watching. Like I said, hit me up with any questions, and thank you again to Accenture for having me, kind of be a part of your triathlon team and connecting me with your people. And good luck to everyone racing out there. And I will see you down there. I will be with Accenture at their booth at some point during the expo at Oceanside. So definitely come by and say hi. And I think most likely I'll be in your guys' tent for a little while as well after the race, so we can chat a little bit after that also. Thanks again to everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.